Welcome to the Bliss Biz podcast, Francesca. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm super excited to be here too. So my name is Francesca Witzburg. I am a trademark and copyright lawyer, otherwise known as an IP lawyer. My mission is to educate and empower businesses and brands, content creators to understand intellectual property and the tools that are available to businesses so that they can grow and really minimize the risk of liability. So with that, I run the Trademark Attorney account on Instagram, so at the Trademark Attorney, and I'm also super active on Clubhouse, and I'm a partner at the law firm Loza Loza.
Francesca, I was so excited when you said yes to coming on the podcast with me for two reasons. Of course, my background is as an attorney, if I can get the words out, as well. And so I have that legal mind. I can't turn it off. I can't help but to see it in every aspect of it. It's the blessing and the curse that we paid a ridiculous amount of money for.
Yeah.
So I can't stop thinking about that. Anytime I'm working with businesses, those are things, even though I don't handle IP matters and contracts and those kind of things for my clients, I see them and I make sure that they get to the proper resources. And I've just been so inspired learning about your story. And I think the same story so many attorneys and other similar licensure professionals go through with building our career, having this dream and this vision of what we thought it would look like.
And success, yeah.
And success and kind of going hard with the hustle. And then realizing that kind of how they train us through law school isn't a sustainable way to build a whole life that we love.
Absolutely.
So tell me about that. Tell me what drove you to go to law school? What took you down this career path? What did you think it was going to look like? And then just kind of did it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I told the story yesterday that apparently in the fourth grade, we had to fill out, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So my whole family always said like, oh, Francesca's going to be a lawyer. Like I needed my own platform. I was always just like the ham and loved the video camera. But I learned about being a lawyer, and apparently I wrote that I wanted to be a lawyer so that I can wear my hair in a up bun, in an updo, and wear a pencil skirt. And the teacher, I'll never forget this.
That's your power suit, clearly.
It's like hilarious. And the teacher's like, Francesca, it's great that you want to be a lawyer, but I just want to make clear, like, you should not pick this profession just because of the clothing.
And you can wear that no matter what you do.
Oh, literally. And I just think it's funny that I think it really goes in this theme of like what it means to be a lawyer and like what we think when we look at the legal profession. We have these like expectations and images of what it's like to be a lawyer. But when you actually look behind the scenes, it's a very stressful job. And it's
a little less sexy than a high bun and pencil skirt, right?
Totally. In fourth grade. So yeah, I just always had it in the back of my brain. I decided to go to law school when it kind of was tied all of my interests together. And I went to law school and fell in love with intellectual property, being in Manhattan at one of the top IP and entertainment law firms in the country. So I fell into it. I met really cool lawyers who were like the general counsel at fashion brands and LA entertainment lawyers who split their time in between cities. And I was just very swept away and very intrigued. So I said, okay, like whatever this is, I want in. And I'm like, like Sarah, like us, we're very type A. I think, and most lawyers, when you do something, you want to do it very well and you want to do it the best.
All the way. Yeah.
So like for me, hearing it, we hear, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. Like we hear, oh, big law, or working at a firm. So that's what we did. And that was the dream and that was the goal. And I realized when I got there, I loved it. I really did thrive there for a while. But at the end of my time, as I was trying to break out from being an associate to a partner, I realized that it was going to take a lot of work to break through that level, and a lot of sacrifice, to the point where I needed to reevaluate everything in my life. And I ended up pivoting hugely in the middle of COVID. And I joined a smaller firm as a partner with zero book of business, zero clients. And I basically had to convince the woman who runs the firm, like, hire me, but I have no clients, but I'm super passionate and enthusiastic, and like, I'll build a book, which you can imagine, like, I don't know. She totally took a gamble on me, but I think she also heard my actual passion, which was very authentic. And I had a plan, which, has led me to meeting amazing people like you, taking advantage of social media and building like actual real relationships. So that's just like a super streamlined overview of like
that's
how I got here.
I'm going to take you back to a couple parts of your story that really jumped out at me just now.
Of course.
The being a little girl that has other people telling you or encouraging you on the lawyer path.
Yeah.
Other than your teacher, who had very great words of wisdom, I was a very argumentative little girl. The other way I tell the story, I was a very bitchy little girl.
Oh my God.
And that's probably not a fair way to put it because of my end point here. I was assertive. If something didn't seem right, yes, I had something to say about it. I could be leveled with, but most adults, it wouldn't occur to them to level with a 6-year-old. Yeah. So they either shut you down, which did not look good on me, trying to be shut down.
No.
Or I think they put you in a box that they're comfortable with. And that's what I think I heard, because same thing, little bitty girl, like tunnel vision, lawyer path. I don't remember it even occurring to me that other professions existed.
Besides being a lawyer.
Yeah.
So interesting. Uh-huh.
And my family was not well off. So whatever it was my parents did for a living was not on the table because we couldn't pay the bills. So cross that off. But I feel like when I would hear you should be a lawyer, I knew my friends' parents that were lawyers, like drove Lexus and stuff. So they must be really rich, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that's kind of my 6-year-old brain on it. But I also think that for an assertive little girl, they've got to put you in a box that they can get comfortable with. I can't just be an assertive little girl that has stuff to say. Yeah. Let's encourage her down something that we can make this appropriate for her. Did you feel like you had any of that?
I felt like I had that later on in my life, in my career.
Okay.
So not necessarily at the beginning, because I almost didn't go to law school. I almost did nonprofit work. And then I thought, I could go to law school and affect change better. Yeah. And then I went from doing nonprofit work to I fell in love with IP immediately, thinking I can actually help businesses and brands and still like be giving back in that way, which has been amazing because I'm super passionate about it and I'm able to help a lot of people. But I felt that recently in my career before making the move.
Tell me about that.
Being in a firm that's very more traditional, there's guidelines, there's rules, there's also an unspoken assumption. It's not even an unspoken assumption. Like, you're an associate, your job is to your partner, and the partner is the one who brings in the business, who you work under, you take their orders, and there's this culture that you just do whatever they say and you just yes them to death to keep your job, to one day get that carrot that's being dangled in front of you. Yeah. And I got to the point in my career where I was becoming more senior, and I just kept realizing, like, I don't want to just be behind a desk. Like, I like the creative part of law, brainstorming with businesses and helping them come up with unique ways to protect their intellectual property or educating them about intellectual property. I wasn't really getting so much of that. I was just kind of like behind the scenes, grinding away, which I thought was fine. But then ultimately I hit a point of the craziest burnout where I knew like I couldn't really do it anymore. It wasn't worth it for me.
And don't you feel like burnout comes so much quicker when we're not being true to ourselves?
Yeah.
It's so much
true,
effort.
Sarah.
Even if we've kind of figured out the role to play and we've memorized it really well, it takes so much effort to show up every day as someone else than you.
Yeah.
You're this creative leader, build my own stage type of person.
Yeah. Showing
up to somebody else's show every day is a lot of effort.
Yeah. Which, I don't regret it all. And I'm totally at the gratitude stage of it all. And I learned so much by working under people. And I think I don't think you have to be an associate to do well, but I think you need to learn under someone if you can. Yeah. And that's kind of like what I did. But I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to branch out a little bit and build my own persona, my own brand. I started building my own brand this year.
And that's where I think it's so important. I feel like the last few podcast episodes, we've touched on this in some way. And so I guess it's a really authentic repeating theme that it can be time to move on and nobody has to be the bad guy.
Yes, I love that.
You don't need a bad guy in your story. And actually, you can move on in the coolest, most authentic and creative ways that are true to you if you don't need an enemy in the story. But if your reason for moving on is like you're describing, I was just ready. I had learned. I was grateful for those lessons. It was no longer a good fit for me. Awesome. Now you can really find what you want to do. But if you're moving on because you've created an enemy in this story, that's something to move through before you can step into that next role.
Yeah. And Sarah, you raise a good point too, because I also think that there are people who may have had different situations, or if they're going through something where there is someone who is making their life hell.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. But what I would say to that person who's looking to leave or starting the next chapter, you can go through the stages, you can go through the grief, the shock, the being upset and moving on. And then when you get to that gratitude stage and you tell your story, you don't need to be bitter against.
Yeah.
You can go be grateful for maybe the lesson that they taught you, or the lessons of what not to do, because at the end of the day, you did learn from that person or that circumstance, and it got you to where you are today. And that's very thematic, and how anything in life, I'm okay, that sucked. I don't want to go back there, but I learned from it and let's keep going.
That's really big. And I've definitely had that in my career. When I very, very first had my license, I worked for an impossible person. Mm-hmm. That, no other way to put it, an absolutely impossible person.
And there's so many in our industry. It's
and it breeds it. And the way they teach us in law school, breeds it, and it breeds burnout. And for sure, I was angry at that person. And absolutely, it wasn't even possible to get myself in a place that I was grateful while I was still showing up in that person's space every day. I had to get out before I could get to that point. I also kind of had this little superpower that I can see people's pain through their impossibility. You can come at me like a raging bitch. Through your words, I can see exactly the root of it.
You just gave me chills, because I agree with you on that. And if someone is that angry and they're trying to make your life that miserable, then clearly there's something going on way beyond it. And I would write that off. If so-and-so's having a bad day, I'm just going to avoid them. Yeah. But if it's perpetual, then that's an environment that is now toxic and seeping into your life. And at a certain point, it's okay, this is just not good.
Yeah. And you can get out of that. You can see that's rooting from pain that has nothing to do with you, and turn around and be grateful.
Yes.
With kind of this type A personality, I don't know that I would have been a great leader to my team when I then had a team in my own firm. I don't know that I would have been a great leader to them. I probably would have brought some of that toxicity, that kind of control freak aspect into it. But having that experience with somebody that had me on anti-anxiety medicine just to be able to show up, I knew how that would impact. It made me such a more intentional leader that I wasn't getting that feedback from my team. I was getting feedback from my team, how grateful they were for, being willing to listen and hear their input and, whatever the subject matter might come up. And so I could step into that gratitude real quick, even though I never wanted to experience it again.
Yeah.
It's easy to step into the gratitude and say, wow, I really learned some valuable lessons, and who knows what kind of leader, what kind of attorney, what kind of professional serving my base I would be if I didn't learn those lessons of what I definitely didn't want to be.
I totally agree.
So getting into your own practice, and I'm loving seeing like all the content I see from you on Instagram. I just get giddy when I see serious, air quotes, serious professionals be really fun with what they do. And I think that's what I find so inspiring about you, is watching you have fun with this actually really cool topic of the law.
Yeah. No, and thank you. I'm so glad, because I just started this account in September. And because before that, right, I was at a big law firm, and I don't
know that traditional practice would be super open to
TikTok,
Instagram. They wouldn't have even known you did it.
Yeah, maybe now. I mean, or in the next couple of years, I think they're definitely going to have to. But at the beginning, it was like, wait, why? No, I'm not doing this. Like general counsels of Fortune 500 clients, like, follow me. No, I'm not doing it. But once I just let that go, I really went all in. Like, I would pick up my phone and just I still do this. Like, I'll stream live on Instagram while I'm walking my son, and whatever topic comes to me, I'll talk about.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So that's just, and going back to the amazing questionnaire that Kim Woods provided.
Yes.
Yes. I have to tell her, I hope she watches this. And for all of you that don't know Kim, you absolutely need to follow her and go to her website. She has this incredible questionnaire form that's a test to see your personality type and what is the best fit for you in certain in media environments. I was a ruling warrior. Sarah, what were you?
So I thought I would be.
Okay.
I ended up being the intuitive. I'm going to get the names wrong, but whatever Kim is also. And I'll make sure anybody listening, I'll put a link to Kim's website in the show notes so you can just go follow her and see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, you have to.
But the intuitive and the ruling warrior have a lot of similarities, and it can cross. It works a little bit like Enneagram, that you're not all or nothing of something, but it's really intriguing to see what that personality type means for the platforms that you'll thrive in.
Platform. Okay. That's the word. This has changed everything. Sometimes when someone says something about you that you don't realize until then they say it, and you're like, oh yeah, I am that. That's what happened.
It feels so validating versus something you may have been fighting against in your own personality.
Yeah. I remember you commented, I feel so seen.
I don't know if I feel attacked or seen, but it's real.
Kim was peering through our souls. But that's it. I needed my platform.
Yeah.
I just needed my own. And I am at a firm where they are unbelievable about my own personal branding and just all of my social media. And I'm just kind of like saying like, F it. Like, I don't need to get pitched for a show. Like, I'm going to make my own show. I'm going to make my own podcast. I'm going to open up my phone and reach people directly. And so it's just been a game change. It's been very freeing to realize that. And I have no fear. And I don't care if people don't like it, then just don't watch. Just unfollow me. I really don't care.
I'm not a bad guy. Still, there's not a bad guy in this story. There's however many billion of people in this world. We're not all going to be a great fit for each other. But I love especially Kim Wood's assessment.
Yes.
I love how things like that give us permission to step into the most full and authentic versions of ourselves. Because I think when we can find that one person it wouldn't resonate with, we otherwise fixate on that and try to shift and change ourselves to be whoever would resonate with that person. And that's where we burn out. But, the same thing as we were talking about being in a career path that's not an excellent fit. We're going to burn out when we're expending energy trying to be something other than who we are.
Yeah.
And it's this weird thing we do to ourselves that we'll find that one person that won't resonate and just try so hard and catch ourselves being like, oh, I did that again. I talked that way again. I did whatever that's so me and keep trying to fight against that rather than just full ass power stepping into it. And so tell me, how happy are you now? How are you feeling now that you've owned that, you're excited about it, and you've taken this super serious career, you're still giving as much or more value than ever. That is 100% Francesca.
Yes. And I can't believe the response has been unbelievable, Sarah. And so by doing this, because I think a lot of lawyers who do work at big firms who really service a lot of institutional clients need to hear this, that you can still be authentic and use social and still get clients that are Fortune 500 companies that are very
people too.
Exactly. And they're run by people. Yeah. And I've actually been doing pitches for some of these companies. It's not just all like small entrepreneurs. There's a variety that's coming in, and it's from being on my social. And Sarah, one of the things I've started doing is I've really leaned into LinkedIn, because that's a network that that's my network I've already built over the years. Yeah. Versus Instagram is like a whole new community, which I still love. Starting
from scratch, yeah.
But why would you not? And like for other people listening to this, use your network. Maybe it's Facebook that you have. I have people reach out to me who are former like friends from college that I haven't talked to in years that are like, oh, I have this trademark problem. Like, can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
So just being like top of mind through social and these platforms where you may not necessarily think that they're clients, like your friends, your family, these are people who, if they're not your clients, they're going to be amazing referral sources for you.
And that's where not ever discounting. I think when you're networking, whether in person or you're on these platforms, don't ever discount the impact one person could be. If you're connected with someone, it could have its value, like you're saying, whether it's because they're going to hire you. You don't know who they know.
Yeah, exactly. And like even with consultation calls, there's times where people are like, oh, Francesca, I saw your trademark lawyer. I'm trying to file this trademark application. It's like, oh, okay, right. They're not going to hire me. They're going to try to do it themselves. But I still fight that initial like, oh, why am I going to waste my time? And it's because you are providing value, and you could do it in a way where you're not giving real advice. I just tell them the high level issues. And it's actually happened, Sarah, where they didn't hire me, but they referred someone to me who actually like wanted to use a lawyer, which has been fantastic.
Or maybe they lose their first $300 doing it wrong. And
right.
Okay, I don't want to do that again.
They'll come. Yep. So it's just like being patient and being out there. And like a lot of this is, especially for the people on Clubhouse, like you're giving value and you can't just think so short term. You really have to think like give value, build, I call it an opportunity funnel, like build that network and that huge funnel, because you never know what it's going to lead to.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where I feel like this is a perfect transition into our IP talk, because I'm an attorney. I know how to read laws. I know how to figure stuff out. I'm a pretty smart chick. I came to you.
Yeah.
I spent one Saturday while I was watching History Channel, because that's how my Saturdays are spent, looking through the US trademark website. And they had great is the wrong word. I was going to say great tutorial videos. That's an overstatement.
They do. I give them credit though. They do a good job.
They tried. Yeah, they tried. They're hokey. They're cheesy.
Yeah.
Trademarky, the little guy, I can't get out of my mind. But I spent that Saturday and I watched the US trademark office's tutorial videos, all of their, warnings, make sure you do this right, make sure you do that right. And I didn't really count that as time. I should have, because if you're in your business, that's time you're spending on your business. But I didn't really count that as time. And I finished that up and I was like, I could probably do this. 50-50, I'll do it. I'll lose whatever it is, 2 something or 300 something. It's a few $100. Worst case scenario, I try it myself. I lose a few $100. It's been a few months. And then I go get help. And then I reminded myself of what I tell all of my clients, is that you are the most expensive person you could possibly hire to do the things outside of your zone of genius in your business.
Yeah.
I could really stretch that rubber band and be like, this is sort of my zone of genius. I'm an attorney too. I'm not an IP attorney. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I would have to spend the time to learn it, execute it, cross my fingers, and maybe start again. Where whether it's your trademark or your bookkeeping or any of the things that isn't your zone of genius as the creator and innovator in your business, it's ridiculous to spend your time on that. And you need to get the professionals in that know what they're doing, can make it easy for you, and you can keep it rolling with actually creating money-making things within your business. That is my soapbox.
I love that. I love that.
Filing my own trademark.
Yeah. And the reality is, like, I have clients that are like, oh, how much is it? And like, then they hear the cost. They're like, oh, it's like $1,250, like through your firm. Well, I thought it was like 20 grand. And it's like, if you're going to charge 20 grand, it's a problem for a trademark. It's really not that much. It is an investment, but it's an investment you're making in your business to make sure before you spend all the money on your website, your branding, whatever it is, like you need to own your trademark before you can even brand anything.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's give that education, because I think from our seats, it seems very obvious on the things you need, but somebody who their skill set, their life experience is in being a nutritionist or being a hairstylist or whatever their skill set is, that being an amazing chef and they're opening a restaurant, whatever their business is, they have no reason to know the things they need.
Yeah.
So you'll hear them say things like, well, I got my website and the web address wasn't taken, so I own that. Yeah. Or I filed my LLC. That's my legal protection. What else could I need? So give the listeners just that high level view on why trademarking is so important and what can happen if you don't have that before you get your logo, and if you have a brick and mortar, spend $20,000 on your sign that goes outside your building and all of the things that are associated with that brand and that name.
Yeah. So okay. And you just mentioned like 3 important differences. So your company name versus your domain name versus your trademark are all 3 entirely different things.
Yeah.
So just because you own the domain name or you have the LLC or your company does not mean you own the trademark. And it's very important to do a trademark search before adopting a mark. And yes, you should absolutely hire a trademark lawyer, because I have special software that's going to plug in the name of the mark, going to plug in the goods. And then it's like literally an algorithm based on legal analysis to pick out the marks. And then I provide actual risk advice. So that's what you get with a trademark lawyer. But even before you do that, it's absolutely essential for you as the owner to go on to the uspto.gov and plug in the name. Plug in the name, just see what's up there. That, of course, is limited because their search function isn't fantastic. So
right.
it's really
a government website through and through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like at the end of the day, that's really going to show you like exact marks. So if there's like a phonetic difference in the spelling or maybe like a difference in meaning, those aren't going to be pulled up. But a trademark lawyer should be pulling those up. So then the other thing after the USPTO is just do a quick Google search. Put in the name of the mark, put in the goods or your services and see what people are actually using and dig on Instagram, spend some time. I really recommend you do that. That doesn't mean you're clearing a mark. That means that if you send it to a lawyer to do, you're not wasting your money because you probably could have found like a major hit off the bat if you had just taken the time to say, okay,
like,
I wonder what this
I
is.
probably shouldn't do this. So what could happen to a business owner? Let's say it is a brick and mortar business, that they get their LLC and they get their domain name and they start operating their business and they've spent all the money on their branding. And not only do they not own the trademark, because they're like, well, I don't care about owning the trademark, but someone else does.
Yes. You mean someone else owns the trademark.
Someone else owns the trademark for this whole brand that they just built. Because they thought it was unique.
It's a problem. It's a fucking problem.
It's a fucking problem. You got problems.
So, I mean, okay, I'll tell you like what goes through it. The question is, without registration, right? Who has earlier use?
Yeah.
So the first thing that you're going to do is look, okay, like when was the first time I actually offered my services or I sold my services or goods to a United States customer? So you got to literally dig back and try to find that date. However, those rights without a registration, like let's say you didn't register and you're just using, and now you found out that someone else has it. Your rights are only limited to the geographic region where you are selling. Which, Sarah, as online businesses, this is a nightmare right now.
Yeah.
Clubhouse, how do you differentiate? How do you carve out which states you're in if you're on Clubhouse? So the way that you get around it.
Especially last year, we've become even that much more of a nationwide, if not international, which we don't have to go into international law.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that, but...
Another podcast.
In worst case scenario, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but worst case scenario, that other person could make you stop using it, right?
Yes. Or demand money, or demand monetary compensation.
More than $1,200 for hiring your attorney too.
It's more money for me to prepare a response, than the filing. Exactly.
And I think that's what I do this. I know a lot of business owners do this. You're kind of just weigh out that risk to reward type thing. This isn't the thing to sweep under the rug because your cleanup efforts are just exponentially greater than your preventative measures, right?
Yeah. And I talk about this, Sarah, all the time. Like I get it. You have a finite amount of money. Even like Fortune 500 companies that make a lot of money, they don't have an unlimited budget. Everyone has a budget. So you need to be strategic about what are the most important marks, what are your most important copyrights, and what are your most important contracts. So have those three things. And I actually do this with clients. Like I'll do what I call like an IP audit. And I literally am like, send me everything. I'll look through everything and here's all your trademarks. This is the one that's most important. Yes, you wrote to me about this one, but this is just a slogan that you're probably going to use for like a couple months. This is your core name. Have you filed for this?
It's not going to literally uproot your business to not use that slogan. It is if that name has to go away.
Yeah. And then we have a conversation about it. So then I do the trademarks, copyrights, and contracts, and we get on the phone, we have a conversation. Sometimes it's like, yes, Francesca, but I've been using my name for so long that like, let's do that in the next like 6 to 9 months, but I really want to protect the slogan. Then I'm like, okay. But now you're empowered because you know, and you have a plan.
Yeah. You have all the information you need to make an educated decision on how you want to handle that.
Yeah.
Now, trademarks or IP in general, this is not state by state, correct? This is I can hire you even if you're not in the state of Arizona.
Yes.
A lot of times you've got to find, so many answers. People will call me from around the world. I'm like, you need an attorney in your state to answer that legal question.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's something
and trademarks in particular, I can hire somebody anywhere to handle that for me, right?
Yeah. And I definitely take that for granted because I'm like, oh, everyone needs to be on social. Everyone needs to be on Instagram. But then, I realize like, but some clients, some lawyers, don't see the benefit because they're like, I'm so niche in Texas. Like, why am I going to market so everywhere? But I can't tell you through these platforms. I have someone I use in California for corporate law. I have my New York corporate lawyer. I have my Florida corporate lawyer, and I've been able to build these relationships through social media. Yep. So it's totally very important for lawyers to market, and also for clients or just like businesses. You can get general concepts through rooms like Clubhouse and learning online.
Yeah. So if somebody has heard the message and they get it and they're like, oh yeah, Francesca, I need you looking at my stuff. How do they contact you? How do they reach you? And I'll make sure this is all in the show notes too.
Yeah, thank you. Go to my Instagram at the Trademark Attorney. I just have a simple link that gives a 15-minute free consult. Even if you're like, Francesca, I want to hire you, I still recommend just getting on the phone because we can have that quick initial call to schedule. But if you're like, I'm not a phone person, click on my contact button again on my Instagram and just shoot me an email, and happy to help any way I can.
Awesome. This has been so great. I love that we've been able to marry this conversation with, building your business to be something you really love and give this really critical business advice. I appreciate you being on the show so much, and I know we'll be talking soon.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone who's listening, and I look forward to keeping in touch.